Hello everyone and welcome back to my F1 22 My Team career mode for the Miami Grand Prix here in Miami. Funny about that, isn't it? It is round 4 of the championship. I'm going to start this one off like the previous few with the Pirelli Hot Lap challenge. This one is an autocross challenge, and this one took me a lot of attempts to figure out how to get through all of this chaos cleanly, but anyway, eventually after learning the circuit a bit in terms of where all the kind of bollards are that we have to drive between, it wasn't too difficult and we managed to bring home the silver reward, and that nets us 500 acclaim and $50,000. So yeah, that's money and acclaim we wouldn't have otherwise, so certainly not complaining about that. As for R&D, we're going to fix that streamlined suspension arms upgrade that failed a while back, and we are also going to upgrade the stators in the power units because we have the worst power units on the grid at the moment. So now we head into qualifying then for the Miami Grand Prix, and as I said, we have the worst car with the worst power unit, and there's a few long straights here, so that is cause for concern, but we'll see what we can do. We can only maximize what our car is capable of. That's a spin. That was actually in practice, but I thought I would just throw it in there. And we have a close call there with our best buddy Lance Stroll as he was coming out of the pit lane. But yeah, that was just in the practice session. But I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. But into qualifying proper now. And we finished our first flying lap. And it's okay, not great. But we are actually going to go on for a second one because I know there is room for improvement. So that is exactly what we do. We push on for another lap, but unfortunately as we come around to end our final lap, we were green slightly, but by the time we come around the final few corners we go red. But the fact is that we're only down by just over a tenth on our second lap, so we were improving, which means if we stick a new set of tyres on as we go for another spin, we should be able to find a decent amount of time, especially with some track evolution towards the end of the session. We're fourth last at the moment, so if we can improve by 3 spots rather, we should be able to get into Q2. So maybe our pace is okay, and we're not far off Williams on the R&D chart, and Albon is currently through, so we'll see how it goes. And you can see as we push on through our third flying lap in Q1, we are making some improvements as we go for a very weird line there through that left-hander, but it works for us, and we are gaining whole chunks of time over our first flying lap, so this is working out very well for us. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised at this point if we do get into the next session. So we absolutely throw it through the chicane there. There's not a lot of space in this part of the circuit, so we're just trying to maximize it as much as we can. Didn't quite use all the road there, but we still got through there fairly quickly, and now through the final complex of corners, and nice and easy on the power through here. And as we now head towards line, where are we going to qualify? Will we get into Q2? Yes, we will, and we're in P8. That is an amazing lap there. Where did that lap time come from? I'm curious to see what the time is, because we haven't done anything like that this weekend. It's a 1 minute 31.8. I don't think I could get within a second of that time in practice. And yeah, I don't know where on earth I pulled that lap time from, but it's there on the timesheets, and that means we are up into Q2. For the Miami Grand Prix. We're faster than Sergio Perez in the Red Bull, which is just insane. But anyway, you can see I'm studying the sector times there to see where we actually found that improvement, and we were just sort of better everywhere on that lap. So yeah, when it all comes together, our car clearly not so bad. But anyway, looking at who does get knocked out in this one, it is Alexander Albon, Lance Stroll, along with Oscar Piastri, Sebastian Vettel, Zhou Guanyu, and Nicholas Latifi rounding off the grid for the Miami Grand Prix. We're into Q2, but unfortunately we were not able to get anywhere near our Q1 time, and we qualified down in 16th position for the Miami Grand Prix, and there wasn't really anything from that session worth showing. So Esteban Ocon, along with Mick Schumacher, Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda and Kevin Magnussen are knocked out in this session, along with myself down in 16th position. So that part of the grid is set. Everyone else will move on to Q3. We will go on straight to the race, and we'll see what we can achieve here in the Miami Grand Prix. I don't have high hopes, but you never know. It is Formula 1 and anything can happen. So let's just get into it and go to the race.
Formula 1 has arrived in the Sunshine State for spectacular sunsets, gentle breezes, warm waters, and for what will be a fantastic race day here at the Miami International Autodrome. Sitting at the southeastern coast of Florida, the Miami International Autodrome has 19 corners and 3.36 miles of racing. It's a circuit designed to encourage close racing while meeting the highest safety standards. Either way, I'm sure it's one that will please the fans. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, George Russell, and Hamilton. Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, and Esteban Ocon. Mick Schumacher, Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, and Magnussen. The Scientist, Albon, Oscar Piastri, and Fernando Alonso. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Vettel, Zhou, Latifi, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Let's start by looking at Fernando Alonso. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to power unit component changes. It's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
Alrighty then, so here we are on the grid for the very first Miami Grand Prix. Strategy for this one will be quite interesting. Some people are starting on hard, some people starting on medium, some people starting on softs. So who knows what the strategies for everyone are. There's a variety of different ones to play out. We're going to start on the mediums and either go to 2 or 3 sets of softs for the rest of the race. Hard to say at this point, but anyway, that is the plan. Let's go to the 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the Miami Grand Prix, and it's a pretty decent start for us as we head to the left hand side, and we'll not be able to find any space there as we maybe made some very light contact with back of Yuki Tsunoda there in front of us. We've actually been elevated a position on the grid courtesy of a penalty for Fernando Alonso, which is worth noting. But anyway, he is starting behind us, and I think he's on the hard compound tyres, so it'll be interesting to see how much progress he can make as we make side-to-side contact with our teammate there, Oscar Piastri, barging down the inside as we shut the door, and in there we get an illegal overtake because we maintain that position off the road. So we let him go, and he can push on ahead. We're struggling at the moment in the opening phase of this race. We're down in 17th position, so losing a couple of spots off the start line, and you can see weaving just slightly along the straight to try and generate a bit of tyre temperature. I really didn't get enough on the formation lap, so yeah, the start of this race could be a little bit tricky while these tyres are still coming up to temperature, so we'll see how it goes. But as we continue on, we actually continue to struggle and lose places as we've got the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll around the outside. We managed to hold him off for now, but we are really under fire at the moment, and eventually he will get up the inside, and we won't have any way of defending that position. Lance Stroll is just too quick at the moment, and we just don't have the pace in this one right now, and we're still struggling. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't think we have damage. That was my initial thought, that potentially we have a bit of front wing damage from that contact with Tsunoda as Alonso goes around the outside. And as I mentioned, he's on the hard compound tyres, and we just have nothing, even compared to Alonso. We're just so slow at the moment, no traction through any of these corners, and it's a mystery at the moment as to why we have no pace, because as you saw in qualifying, we weren't too bad. So, you know, of course the Alpine is a much better car, but on the hard tyres you think we would have something while we're on the mediums to defend with, but we're just losing place after place as the other Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel goes past on the left hand side, and once again we have no means to defend that position. So yeah, it's very frustrating at the start of this one. We've dropped into 20th position. We're almost in last place now, as we've got Zhou Guanyu behind us and Nicholas Latifi rounding off the field still in last position for the Canadian, as we go very deep into the first corner and we just about keep it on the road. Zhou trying to go around the outside. We've lost the back end, and now we've got a bit of contact from behind. That was Zhou into the back of us as we spun.
Okay, the officials have deployed the safety car due to multiple cars being stopped on track. Mind your delta.
And safety car deployed. Let's see what happened here. Zhou just nicks our left rear tyre as we spun around, rips the front left corner off his car, and Nicholas Latifi taking avoiding action there, having to grab reverse gear there to drive around the incident, and he does manage to stay out of trouble. So nice reactions from Latifi there. But that's brought out the safety car. Thankfully, we don't have any damage from that incident. But here's the reason we've been struggling so much. Look at the bottom right. Our tyres are just cold. They have not warmed up at all. And they tend to be resting in the high 80s degree temperature sort of range. And that's just not quite warm enough for them to grip properly. Hopefully we can maybe try and generate a bit more tyre temperature as the race goes on. There's a moment there. Like I said, just the tyres just aren't gripping the track, so we can't carry the speed through the corners and generate that tyre temperature because we don't have the tyre temperature to do that. It's a catch-22 at the moment, and I'm having to weave on the straights to try and keep that tyre temperature going and just maintain where it is at the moment. So hopefully we can generate enough tyre temperature to kind of break out of that cycle as we get going for green flag at racing once again. But at the moment,
no tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
Things aren't looking too good for us on these medium tyres. I'm glad we didn't start on the hards, because that was certainly a consideration as we go for a bit of a slide there, and we may lose second last position here as Latifi's up the inside, and we let him go there. Latifi overtakes us, and we are down into 21st and last of the remaining cars in this race.
Try to keep focus.
So yeah, that might not be the worst thing. If we can stick close behind Latifi, we may be able to generate some more tyre heat behind him following in the dirty air. But even then, we could barely keep up with Latifi, and you can see weaving along the straight there and having a big moment through the corner, and we're still just barely generating enough tyre temperature
DRS has been enabled. DRS is now enabled.
to be within the bottom end of the working range for the tyres. So it's really a struggle in this first stint, and of course weaving along the straights is slowing us down, and it's not really helping our lap time in any way. So it's a very frustrating beginning to this race, and we just don't even have the pace to keep up with anyone at the start here.
Oscar's coming in for his stop now.
As Oscar Piastri comes in to make his first stop, and this is the only way we're going to be making positions in this race, is when others are making pit stops, and we're only halfway through our first stint if we're going on to 3 sets of softs, which I've pretty much settled on, because we'll need the softs to generate any amount of tyre heat in this race, because for some reason these mediums are just not working for us. So we move on to lap number 16, and we are now under pressure from some of the drivers who have made their first stops. We've moved our way up into 14th because of them, but a moment down at the final complex of corners drops us 2 spots as we 360 our way through there and drop into 16th position. as we finish off lap 16. And as we continue on, we just continue to lose more places. And it's getting to the point where I just need to get rid of these medium tyres, but I need to stretch them long enough so that it's feasible to get to the end on 3 sets of softs. I need to get to lap 24, that is the target, and then we can nicely split the final 3 stints. I only have 2 sets of brand new softs, so that makes things a little bit tricky, and I can't pit too early because I don't want to run too long on a scrub set. But you can see in the meantime I'm just losing so much time, and you can just see how much faster everyone else is because these tyres they haven't worked for the entire stint, and they don't show any signs of working anytime soon. So I'll be glad to be rid of these tyres very soon.
Concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
And confirmation there's no issue with the car, no issue with the tyres in terms of wear, they just are not heating up.
You're just starting to drop back from the car in front by about 2 seconds a lap now. Get your head down.
Wow, 2 seconds a lap slower,
Right,
as Esteban Ocon is out of the race. What has happened there? Safety car is out. We're looking at Lando Norris, who's going slowly, and Ocon into the back of Lando Norris. Esteban Ocon not watching where he's going there. And Lando, I think, has a mechanical issue. Ocon rips the right front corner off of the Alpine there. And here's the onboard with Mick Schumacher, who has to slam on the brakes to avoid T-boning Esteban Ocon as Lando Norris retires from the race with a mechanical failure. Unfortunate for Lando, he is out. The safety car is a perfect time for us to come and change these tyres. And
coming in for his stop now.
Unfortunately, Oscar Piastri in the pits at the same time, so he will have to double stack. But honestly, I am so glad to be rid of those medium tyres. Hopefully these softs will generate a little bit more tyre temperature, and they will actually work for us. So we'll have to see how that goes. But at the moment, we are down in 18th position with only Piastri behind us. So the lack of pace is really showing for both of us here in the Miami Grand Prix. So it's been quite a frustrating one. But anyway, we get going for green flag racing once again. And you can see we are aggressively weaving to try and generate some heat into these soft compound tyres. After the safety car, of course, they're going to be quite cold. And of course, they're just been freshly put on the car anyway. So yeah, there's some tyre warming to do here, but as you can see, a lap later, we are nowhere near in contention with the rest of the field. We let Piastri go to see what he can do, as he has a bit of a lock-up into the first corner, but no major concerns there, and he is through into 18th position. And we drop down to 19th, last of the remaining cars in this race. Meanwhile, out in front, it is Carlos Sainz who leads the way from the 2 Red Bulls. Then it's Charles Leclerc and the 2 Mercedes cars, but all of them are only covered by a few seconds, so the fight for the lead are quite close in this one, as that is an issue there for Nicholas Latifi, and the Canadian will not finish the Miami Grand Prix, and he pulls off to the side of the road there, out of harm's way, and we continue to push on racing. We eventually move on, and we do overtake Oscar Piastri as he enters the pit lane, as we are under a bit of pressure from Ricciardo behind, who has recently made a pit stop. It is our lap to box anyway, but Ricciardo is keen to get the move done. He goes down the inside and gets through rather easily. We don't make a big deal about it. Ricciardo can push on and worry about his own race. We come into the pits to make our pit stop, and this will be the second of the 3, and hopefully we can get a nice stop time here, and that is a trophy for us for 25 perfect pit stops.
Stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross onto the track.
So that's very nice. But anyway, back out onto the circuit, and we slot into 17th position of just 18 cars left in this race. So yeah, 4 cars have DNF so far, and as we continue on, I think we have actually finally found some pace. That first set of softs, they were still running a little bit cold, but these ones, it's finally I don't know if it's the track's warming up, if the lighter fuel load means we can carry more speed through corners and that's putting more force through the tyres, I don't know. But whatever it is, we are finding some pace as Albon locks up as we go for a double dive down the inside of Albon and Stroll. We have a little bit of a lose on the exit, but that was a nice move, and we've just gained 2 places at once on Albon and Stroll. Big dive, Albon locks up, big mistake from him there, and he opened the door for us as we came charging in, and he loses the spot to Lance Stroll at the same time. Good job to actually leave a room for us there, because that was a very late move on our part, and Albon ends up losing the spot to Lance Stroll at the same time. He's on board with Stroll, and wow, that is a monumental lock-up from Albon. And Stroll, he almost got up the inside of us, but wasn't quite able to get there. Gets around the outside though as we run towards the first corner, but we will maintain the position and move ourselves up and into 15th position in this race. We continue to push on then, and the next car we catch is actually George Russell in the Mercedes, and look how slow he is here. He's got some serious issues. He's got the mid-corner speed of a London bus as we go around the outside, and George Russell, something has gone horribly wrong in that Mercedes car, because he is so slow and has absolutely plummeted through the field. So a disastrous race for George Russell, and I feel like that happened earlier this season. Might have even been in the last race, I can't remember, but it definitely he had a car issue previously this season. We're only in round 4, so Mercedes have some work to do, as we had a moment there chasing down a Mick Schumacher. Eventually we will go for the move around the outside, and we get the move done on Mick Schumacher, a little bit deep into the left-hander there, but job done nonetheless. And we set our sights on Pierre Gasly. The Frenchman has some front wing damage, I was told over the radio, and that makes it relatively easy to make the move around the outside of the AlphaTauri, and eventually he has to lift out of the fight, and we move ourselves ahead, and that does move us up into the top 10. Of course, we have our final stop still to make, which we now enter the pit lane to do so. This stop we will be going on to that scrubbed set of tyres from qualifying. They've only done an out lap, a flying lap and an in lap, so they'll still be fairly new.
Perfect job on the turn in there, mate. Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that one. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound.
So we'll see how this goes. We were very close to the right hand side wall there as we cranked it sideways out of the pit exit, so hopefully we didn't actually tag the wall. That may have damaged our front wing. But up the road, that's Albon with a spin, and that's a disaster for him, and a bigger disaster for Bottas. Straight into the side of the sideways Williams. We just about managed to avoid contact ourselves, but that was mightily close, and a big scare there. Both of them are out of the race, and both Alfa Romeos being taken out of this one by spinning cars. We do unfortunately have to make another pit stop. We do have front wing damage. I'm not sure if it's from tagging the wall or Albon's car or a bit of debris, but unfortunately we have to make another tyre change as well. We do have another scrub set of tyres from qualifying. These ones would have done 2 flying laps. New front wing on the car as well, and we're out of pit lane, and we're down in 15th position of the 16 cars remaining. Unfortunately 16th is Piastri, and he is a lap down in this one. But by the time we actually catch the train, we were stuck behind George Russell, who's incredibly slow. It took him a long time to catch up to the train, but we do get racing once again, as George Russell is our first target. But there's only 3 laps to go in this one. We send one up the inside of George Russell, and we're going to go around the outside of Piastri, who moves out of our way and then blocks off George Russell just for the fun of it. And now we are on the back of Pierre Gasly, round the outside of him, and we get the job done. Our next target is Sebastian Vettel. In fact, we have both of the Aston Martin cars in front of us now. Vettel tucked in behind Lance Stroll, so let's see what we can do about the German. We're We're a long way behind, but we're going to go for the big dive up the inside into turn 1, and we will make the move successfully there on Sebastian Vettel and move ourselves up into 12th position. We need to get past Lance Stroll and one of the Hasses if we want points. Mick Schumacher is the second of those, so he is our target. But first we need to get past Lance Stroll, and we're going to sneak up the inside, and through the smallest gap there we will get ahead of the Canadian, and that moves us up into 11th position. Very sneaky move there, but we do get it done. And now just Mick Schumacher separates us and the points, but there is only a lap and a few corners to go, and Lance Stroll has got a good slipstream along here. He will have DRS as well. He goes to the inside. The fight with Stroll is not quite over as we run side by side towards the final complex of corners. Stroll up the inside, very close to contact there. We give him as much space as we can. He gets a better exit. We tuck in behind though, and we will have a nice bit of slipstream along the run to the first corner. Now we have the DRS open.
DRS is now enabled.
No we don't, because DRS has only just been enabled. Never mind. Up the inside of Lance Stroll, and we get the move done on the way in to the first corner, and we move ourselves up back up and into 11th. And only Mick Schumacher now separates us and the points. So here we go then through the final sector, and we are really running out of time here. We got to get the move done on Schumacher into the next left-hander. Meanwhile, up the road, Carlos Sainz has had an absolutely brilliant race here in Miami, and he's going to win the Miami Grand Prix. Fantastic race by Carlos Sainz. Brilliant for Ferrari, and we are going to go for the big dive on Schumacher down into the final left-hander of the circuit, and we will get the move done on Mick Schumacher, and we'll finally grab 1 point in this race. Somehow, with the slowest car in the field, we'll bring home a singular point.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
How on earth did we manage that? I will never know. That last safety car was incredibly fortuitous for us. We get the driver of the day as well.
Great effort there from Ferrari to take the victory today. Tell me, Ant, how do they manage to achieve this win?
Well, you know what they say, to finish first you have to finish. And that fact was clear today, with lots of retirements having a big effect on the outcome of the race. As a driver, you tend to keep reliability concerns to the back of your mind and just focus on what's in front of you. But for the teams, races like this can be very stressful.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So, Carlos Sainz takes victory here in Miami. Second place goes to Sergio Perez, with Max Verstappen in third.
So let's see what effect this result has had on the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
I have to give it to the scientist. There was a lot going on all down the field, but they were the only one who I really felt maximised their potential.
Let's move on to the Constructors. No change in the top spot then, but with today's points, their hold on that lead is getting weaker. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One, so be sure to join us for the next one.
Alrighty then, what on earth do we say about that? Unbelievable. How on earth did we manage to snag a few points out of that race? I will never ever understand. But anyway, that is the end of the Miami Grand Prix. Quick run through the finishing order. Obviously we just saw the podium. Sainz, Perez, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc finished fourth. So yeah, the kind of B drivers of Sainz and Perez beating Verstappen and Leclerc, which is cool to see. Daniel Ricciardo, fantastic race from him. He finished in 5th position. Lewis Hamilton at 6th, Yuki Tsunoda 7th. He had a great race because he started down in 13th place. And then Fernando Alonso started in 18th. He finished 8th, so he gained 10 spots. K-Mag finished 9th, and we finished down in 10th. starting 15th, and given everything that happened in that race, that is a miracle, honestly. That last safety car saved our race, honestly, and gave us a chance to fight through the field. Albeit, we only had to overtake about 5 cars in 3 laps. It gave us that opportunity to get back into the points. But anyway, in terms of the championship, despite getting a point, we drop a spot to Daniel Ricciardo. He moves up to 6th, and we drop into 7th position. Ricciardo also overtakes George Russell, who drops into 8th. So Russell has really had a rough start to the season. He's only scored 12 points. We've scored 15. So, of course, a lot of those were from Saudi Arabia, which was a very lucky race for us. But anyway, at the top, it is Max Verstappen leading the way, 27 points ahead of the second place, Charles Leclerc. Sainz third, 32 points away, and Perez 40 points behind the ultimate number of Max Verstappen. In terms of the constructors, unfortunately, we do lose a bunch of spots there, and we drop from where we were in fourth or 5th position. We drop into 7th, and we drop behind Alpha Tauri and McLaren, as well as Haas, I think. So yeah, that's not ideal, but anyway, that's the constructors. At the top of the constructors, we have got Red Bull leading the way from Ferrari, just 19 points between them, 96 points back to Mercedes, who have only scored 48 points. So yeah, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers around, but they really haven't done so well this season. But anyway, let's move on to the HQ stuff. And what do we get from this one? We are going to level up our acclaim to level 7. Our driver acclaim, Piastri, also level 7, just much higher on level 7. Team acclaim up to level 9. I think we get a new sponsor at 10, so that's coming soon. Unfortunately, our sponsor goal was to not cut any corners, and I didn't actually show it in the final cut of the video, I don't think, but I made a bit of a silly mistake. Under one of the safety cars, I just sort of lobbed it over one of the chicanes, and yeah, that happened, and got a exceeding track limits warning, so we lost that one. Anyway, we now turn our attention to the facilities, because as I mentioned, our power unit is no good. We need to improve our power unit facility, because it is currently on spec 0. We haven't done anything to it, so we're going to work on the build time and get those upgrades coming in faster. And now we have a marketing department event, so let's check that out.
An upcoming news article has a question they'd like your input on.
Alrighty then, so this seems to be the way the rivalry system works in this year's game. Interesting that they've included it in the department events, but anyway, I guess it works. So we can select a rival: Lance Stroll, Sebastian Vettel, or Alexander Albon. I'm not going to choose Albon because he's in the Williams, and I think our car will improve beyond the Williams quite soon. I certainly hope so. Even though we have had our rivalries with Stroll many times in the past, just in terms of on-track racing, we've had very many close finishes with Stroll. We're actually going to go with Vettel, just for something a bit different, and it makes more sense logically. He's the 4-time champion, so he's a very high value target to beat. So we're going to go with Sebastian Vettel as our rival, our first rival in F1 at 22.
Thanks for handling that.
As we go through the timeline, we get our weekly resources in, and we can now afford another upgrade. We're being recommended the heave dampers, and that is exactly what we are going to do. So as we continue through the timeline for the final time, ticking off all the activities, we get the streamlined suspension arms upgrade that we fixed at the start of this episode, and the next round of the championship is the Spanish Grand Prix. And yeah, other than that, I don't think there is anything else left to cover, so I'll say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to give me some feedback in the comments, it's always very helpful. Other than that, I will see you next time. Goodbye.